When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him, and he began to speak, and he taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, or righteousness and justice, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemy. Love your enemy." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, Tasneem and I are not enemies, right? We're friends. But of course, we're all more than aware that for all the good that has come from both of our faith traditions, far too much pain and suffering has been caused, is being caused, when we see and treat each other as enemies. So for me personally, as a Christian, throughout my life, anytime a speaker came to any of the churches I was a part of, for the most part, to talk about Islam, or any other faith really, it was not a Muslim person, but another Christian telling all of us why we're right and all of the people who aren't even there are wrong, and how we can make those people become more like us. So we're not doing that today. Because what is good and beautiful about my Christian faith, or our Christian faith, is not dependent upon everyone else being wrong. On the other hand, sometimes, and Tasneem, you might know this more than I do, sometimes when people of different faith traditions get together, we try so hard to find our common ground that we abandon anything that is unique or different about our own faith traditions. And we're not going to do that either, because that's just super boring, right? Like nothing of substance or meaning at all. So for those of us who are Christians, we still believe in Jesus. We are still here after Easter celebrating that Christ is risen and alive. Like that hasn't changed. Perhaps one thing that we are doing with welcoming Tasneem here is, and this is especially important for Christians in the West who have enjoyed a significant amount of advantages and privilege, is that we are in this moment letting go of a little bit of control, to be able to listen to someone from a different tradition and perspective without the demand to change them or to disprove whatever it is that is said. So, it's out of the fullness of our faith, out of the fullness of our Christian faith, that we welcome Tasneem here, as I believe Jesus would welcome her, as she is, to share with us authentically about herself and her own Muslim faith. The same is true when our Jewish friends arrive later today for lunch together. The same is true for anyone who comes into this space. So, Tasneem, we're so fortunate and glad to have you here. We invite you to come and to share whatever it is you want to share. Let's welcome Tasneem. All right. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Wow. If I get that kind of a welcome to be authentic and full everywhere I go, and if we all get that welcome, right, whether it's in our schools, in our workplaces, in the mall, it would be a blessing. So thank you. Thank you for opening your hearts and being willing and open to listening to me. I'm not here to preach at all. So even if you, I hope what I want to do today is not speak to you as a representative of Islam. I do not want to speak to you today as a scholar or an expert, because I'm not. I want to speak to you as a Muslim woman who is from South Asia, grew up in India, Pakistan, Dubai before coming here. As a Muslim who is a daughter, a sister, a niece, an aunt, woohoo, to 3 young ones. I love the children who came earlier. That was wonderful. I'm a Muslim leader, not because of the titles that I have, but because of what I do and what I believe and who I want to be in the world. So I'm an interfaith leader, I'm a spiritual leader, I'm a facilitator, I'm a coach, I am a bridge builder, I'm the faith connector, right? So these are all the different ways I lead as a Muslim. I'm a Muslim who deeply cares about being the best version of myself as my service, in service to my Creator, which is our Creator, no different than the Lord and the God that you called upon today. I'm a Muslim who's strong in her faith, and see God as my sustainer, my creator, my Lord, my guide, my best friend. That's what my mom said when I was growing up. She said, see God as your best friend. He's all-knowing, all-seeing, all-hearing anyways. So be upfront with him. Why do you want to, pretend to hide? You can't hide anything from him. So just approach him with everything. From that place of love. There are 99 names of God in the Muslim tradition, and just some of the ones that I have a lot of faith in and I remember all the time are: He's the most merciful, He's the most loving, He's the most generous, He's the most forgiving, He is the most abundant, right? And nothing is too little or too much for him. I speak to you today as a Muslim who has deep faith and is struggling, right? I'm struggling even as I'm grounded and safe, because there are a lot of questioning, a lot of unresolved heaviness and guilt that I've been experiencing, of the sense of being inadequate and like even hopeless at times, to be honest. And that doesn't eradicate or minimize the faith that I have, but it actually is part of what makes me Muslim as well. Because this faith and the struggle, the questioning simultaneously, is, I'm going to use a word that tends to be scary in the greater thing, as because it's used out of context. And that word is usually associated with terrorism, with hatred, with violence. And you can probably guess that that word is jihad. And I'm here to tell you that for me as a Muslim, that word is sacred to me and an integral part of being Muslim. Because it doesn't mean holy war, instead it means struggle. It literally means struggle. And the concept of holy war is there, but that's a different topic, different day. That's not what I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with that inner struggle, right? That's called jihad ul-nafs. Nafs are like your what is it, pulse? Yeah, so it's like the inner struggle, right? And so inner jihad is a continuous process of self-reflection, self-discipline, self-improvement, and this growth happens when you are challenged, when you're uncomfortable, when you're called to be or do something more than who you are in this moment. And so that's the kind of jihad that I've been, I mean, we all are part of our whole lives, but somehow this last few months have been very explicit for me, let's just say. And so, how so? Well, one more thing I wanted to share is we just came out of our month of fasting, which is called Ramadan. We celebrated on Wednesday, Eid, which means celebration. We didn't have the cake or the bread, but it was pretty cool. It was pretty yummy. And so Ramadan is literally the name of the 9th month in the lunar calendar. And that's really what Ramadan is, just a name of a month. But it's a very special month because it is filled with blessings. It is the month when the first revelation of the Quran was revealed. And it's a month of growth. It's a month of reflection. It's a month of self-restraint, not to punish yourself, but to learn and to grow from it. It's not just fasting from food and water from dawn to sunset, but it's also fasting from anger, from irritation, from judgment. I was talking to a younger, she's just graduating from UCLA, and she was like, I'm fasting from negative thoughts. I was like, ooh, that's a good one. And so it's really a month when it's a training month for us to be the best version of ourselves for our Creator and to be more God conscious. And also part of it is to feel the pain and to have built that empathy muscle for those who are less fortunate, right? So when you feel the rumble in your tummy or the dry mouth, you're like, oh, there are people out there who are hungry, who don't get to, quench their thirst when they want to. And Ramadan is my favorite time of the year, even more so than the celebration that comes after it, because it really is the month where I feel the closest to God. It is really the month when I'm most intentional, when I'm most present, and I do feel from inside that I'm being a better version of me. And this Ramadan was different. This Ramadan was hard. I'm going to share with you two specific stories or moments. This first one is pre-pandemic. So I don't know, maybe 2016 or something like that. There is this, it's called Humanitarian Day. It's just a day when we go out and serve the homeless with food and drinks and medical health and whatever it is that you can do for them. And it's been going on for about 20 years plus. And you do it during Ramadan because charity, giving back, serving is part of Ramadan as well. And so usually we go to Skid Row, but this particular year I went to Santa Ana, and it was a shelter, a homeless shelter there. And as we were waiting to get inside, there was another man, a gentleman, sitting on the bench, and he started talking and stuff. And at some point he said, I haven't eaten for 2 days, and I really hope I can get in there and actually rest. And I'll never, ever forget that moment. It's been a number of years, and I still remember myself standing in front of the gate. He was over here. We were in a group of people. I can't describe, just that's one of my weaknesses, but And I was like, wow, that's the point of me fasting, is to feel what he is feeling. And then hit by this realization that I can never feel what he's feeling. Because when I'm fasting by choice. He is not. I know exactly when, time, sunset, dawn, when exactly I'm going to start fasting, when exactly I'm going to stop fasting. He does not. I have so many options of what to break my fast with, who to do it, where to do it, in the mosque, in the in my family's home, in a synagogue or a church. And he does not have all those options. He's lonely in this struggle of his. And I just really couldn't let it go, where I was like, wow, I'm just so blessed. And this year, it wasn't just one homeless person who I had to face. It was thousands, a million, right, in Gaza. And yes, Gaza is not the only place. Palestine is not the only place. But I do a lot of work with Muslims. I do a lot of work with Jews. I have been inundated with holding space for the grief and the anger and the fear and the anxiety that everyone is holding during this time as the war goes on. And I just, there was this other moment. I was actually at a church for an Interfaith iftar. And after we had prayed and opened our fast, I was sitting on the table with one other Muslim person. Everyone else was getting their food, and just said, "Hey, how are you?" It's a simple question, by the way, not the best question to ask these days because it's loaded. But what do? I still asked it. I was just coming out of my fast. And she said, "Good." And then she took a pause, an awkward pause, and then she said, "Actually, I just feel guilty all the time." And then there was another awkward pause, and she looked down, and then she raised her, plate full of food and started eating. And I looked at her, and I looked at my food of plate in front of me, and I'm like, me too? And what do I do? How do I eat this when I know in Gaza they are not, they're literally starving? Their choice is between not eating and eating grass and animal feed. Their choice is between not drinking water and drinking water that is contaminated and dirty and is getting them sick. And how do I sit here and just eat and drink? And then a few moments later, I took the first bite, and I took the second bite, and I felt this numbness. I couldn't even pray for the people because that meant facing it even more, like putting words to the feelings that I was feeling and didn't want to feel because they were so uncomfortable. And these aren't even the terrible stories, right? Like, this is just me with my food and how I'm doing. And so, what do we do? How do we turn to how do I move past this? Okay, one more story I will share. So on Wednesday was the Eid prayers, which is the celebration morning services, and I went to a smaller mosque. It's called UCLA. And, it was a prayer hall. It's smaller, but it was still very cool and intimate. And men and women were separated, but same room. And we were there, and there was families there. And so the dad was sitting there with some of the kids, and the mom was sitting here. And I think he's just 2 years old or something. There was this little boy with the sweetest smile, kept running back and forth between his mom and his dad. And every time he ran back and forth, I was like, oh, like I just had that smile. And it did distract me from the sermon. But kids have that effect on you. And I just felt really happy. I just felt really happy. And then later that day, I was on Facebook, and one of my friends who is from Gaza, who has literally lost over 100 family members, she posted a video of Eid prayers in northern Gaza. And it was in the open, rain pouring, about this much, an inch of rain on the ground, with people just brought their prayer mats and were, still sitting on the wet ground. And there was this little boy, about the same age as the one I saw earlier that morning. And he was just still. He was just sitting next to his dad. There was no smile. There was no mischievous look on his face. It was just an expressionless, rain falling. And again, that stark contrast for me was really hard to sit with. And so what do? I asked my mom. I'm like, Mama, how do you not feel guilty, as we were preparing food one day? And she said, I do what I can. And she didn't know people in Gaza, so she knew people in India and in Pakistan. And she said, I gave them money. I said, get food. She got videos showing that, they were enjoying it. And then she said something really, really important. She said, I can only do so much. But never be in the illusion that you are doing anything, because it's really God who is making it all happen. It's really God who gets to make a difference. We're just instruments, and we will always be tiny instruments in the grand scheme of things that are needed. But it's God, and so pray that He alleviates the suffering, that He continues to use us as instruments in ways that He knows we can. And then I asked my dad, I was like, Daddy, what do we do? Like, how are you sitting with this? And he's a little bit more, it was like, what's the big deal? He was like, this is what life is. Challenges are the means of growth. In fact, that's where they're there. They're there so we can grow from it. They're there so we can learn from it. They're there so we can become better people as a result of it. And this is your test right now. The people who are suffering, they're giving their test. But your test is how you're going to show up. Your test is how you are going to respond. Your test is what you're going to learn from this. There are different verses in the Quran that speaks to the tests. And one says, and know that your possessions and your children are a test, and that with God is immense reward. Another one that says, be sure we shall test you with something of fear and hunger, some loss in goods or lives or the fruits of your toil, but glad tidings to those who patiently persevere. And then I took wisdom from a saguaro tree. I was in Arizona for the first week of Ramadan, and I totally fell in love with the saguaro trees, the cactuses with the shooting arms. And apparently, it takes 70 to 100 years for just the first arm to shoot up, let alone the big arms that I saw over there. So I was totally fascinated. I was just having a moment. I was just sitting there reflecting, praying, remembering God. And as I was sitting there, I was like, I wonder what these saguaros have to tell me about our Creator. Like, they've literally been here for hundreds of years, have survived in a desert, which is beautiful and all, but is known for being hard, is known for being, unforgiving and relentless. It's dry. And it's like, it's not the first place I think of when I want to go on a vacation. I was like, what are these saguaro trees that could tell me about our Creator? And the answer that came through me, whatever you want to call it, the answer that came through me was that it is all love. It is all love, all of it. And I was sitting there and thinking like, wow, if a cactus can say that after surviving for hundreds of years in a desert, I have so much that is easier. I wonder, how can everything that is happening, how can all of it be love? And that's where faith comes in, is trusting that even though I don't get it, even though I don't like it, somehow it is all love. Somehow there is some good in this. Somehow we're becoming, or at least are being called to become better people, better communities, better in all regards. And I'm going to trust that. And I'm going to do my part to keep striving in ways that are in alignment with my values, in alignment with what I seek in the world, and just keep at it. Jihadul nafs. So with that, I'll just invite you to take a deep breath. And as I turn it over, I'll be doing this too, is just invite all of us to reflect on who we want to be in this moment and how we're going to continue showing up and growing. Thank you.